Why should somebody even consider building a personal brand?
The reason why is because there's 1,000,001 people who already do what it is you want to do, what it is you are doing, and that's your differentiator. Your personal brand is like your reputation. You don't have to develop a brand, you are the brand. We just have to figure out how you share that with the world, right? It's not big, giant, bold things that make your brand unique. It's just the little things that you're like cool with yourself about it. There's just not enough people of a certain age who are putting themselves out there because they think it needs to look a certain way.
It needs to look like you.
That's right. If I were just starting to build my brand from scratch, I would.
Welcome to the department where we have conversations with people who are killing it in their department. In today's department, I have my first returning guest, and it's with the best, Chalene Johnson.
Thank you so much for this lighting.
Yeah, we hooked up the lighting. Last time the lighting was a little too cinematic.
Can we just have someone put in like a before and after so they can see and they can side with me and go like, lighting's much better today.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's called female-friendly lighting.
Female-friendly lighting. Yeah. I found that females like to be lit differently.
Yeah, especially of a certain age.
Yes. But if you haven't, you probably are seeing this video because you did see the first conversation we did around personal branding. And there is so much desire to learn more about personal branding we have found.
Yeah.
And I think something you do really good at is killing limiting beliefs around this idea. But let's just start off straight up, right out the get-go. Why should somebody even consider building a personal brand? Why should they even care? Maybe they're gone past the age. All the young people are doing it, so it's not for people who are older.
Yeah. And there's so many people now that realize, oh my God, my job is not necessarily a secure thing. Or I've been a school teacher for the first half of my life. I want to do something else. I'm called to do something else. So many people want to do that 2.0 version and they don't know where to start. And that is where you start. And the reason why is because there's 1,000,001 people who already do what it is you want to do, what it is you are doing. And that's your differentiator. Your personal brand is like your reputation. It's how people, it's like when you're interviewing people, right? Like you've got two great candidates, they've got the same amount of school, same amount of experience. What makes one different from the other is how they've branded themselves to you, even in the interview process. So it's just the impression you give people, and it makes you stand out.
I would ask you because like there's a tension in that. There's a tension in being uber intentional about that, and intentional about the image that I put out into the world. And then the complete opposite is like, I'm truly just doing me and I'm okay with who I am. And that's what's being portrayed. And then that picture happens later.
Yeah,
you know,
it does. You know what you have to do? You have to just start, because if I said, okay, listen, you're transitioning or you're a midlifer or you're doing your 2.0, I'm not going to tell you to sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and sketch out your brand. You've got to just start creating content, and it's going to become obvious to you when you're looking at the comments. Certain things you're like, I didn't even know, that's a big deal. That's different from what everyone else is doing. So it's partly getting feedback, and it's partly you paying attention to what you feel good about when you see it. And you're like, this makes me proud, and I want to attract people who have a similar mindset or who like this and embrace it. Example, this is going to put some people off, but like, I'm okay with typos. Like, if you can't get my message because I've used TOO instead of TO, like, I'm not your jam. Like, we're not going to get along. I don't need you policing my grammar. You know, it was Surrey's fault, not mine. So like, that's part of my brand. And then that tells you something about me. And then I start to see that in my comments, people saying like, oh, I bet she did a typo intentionally so that we would know she's okay with making it messy. It's like it's not big, giant, bold things that make your brand unique. It's just the little things that you're like cool with yourself about it.
That's really good. And I think sometimes it's just the little details of even like what you like to wear.
Yeah.
Like you
Absolutely.
like, you know.
Long nails.
Yeah.
There's nothing like all natural, never, right? It costs a lot of money to look this cheap.
But you've allowed the things that you like to be the thing that is what connects people with your brand.
Yeah, and sometimes it repels people, or sometimes people are like,
good.
I don't necessarily understand the long nails and the makeup or whatever, but I do like that she owns it, And there are people who I don't necessarily agree with how they dress or their, language or whatever, but I love that they own it, And so there's little pieces of that. So for somebody who's thinking right now that is it too late? It's not. Well, first of all, for people who are like in the second phase of their life, brands are looking for you because who do we respect their opinions and their influence? It's our peers, right?
Yeah.
And who's got the most money? No offense, Omar, but my generation's got more money than your generation right now.
That's facts, though.
Right? It's just, median income speaking, the older people become, the more disposable income they have.
Yeah.
And so brands, PR agencies, influencers, they're looking for people who are a little wiser, as I like to call them, have more experience, and they can relate to their audience. Like, there's just not enough people of a certain age who are putting themselves out there because they think it needs to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And in 2024, it doesn't.
It needs to look like you.
That's right.
I love that you say that because I think the hidden gem behind starting messy for a person who is in their 2.0 season is that there is so much to bring to the table that like the head start from like a 23-year-old starting from zero and the head start a 55-year-old starting from zero.
Yeah.
It's actually like huge.
Yeah.
And some of the YouTube channels that I've been fond of lately are people that are they just turned on a camera and they're starting to teach and they're brilliant, but it's because they lived so much life. They have so much experience and
it's an automatic credibility, right?
100. Yeah.
We all do this when maybe we all don't. People my age, I look at someone talking about like how to be a love expert and they're, 30 years old and they've been married for 5 years. I'm like, I don't buy it.
Right.
You know who I want to read that book? I want to read that book from someone who's been married for 35 years or 45 years. I want to hear from them. I want to hear them tell that story on TikTok. And it doesn't need special captions and special production. So right now, I think if I were just starting to build my brand from scratch, I would download the TikTok app. I would open it up. I would set it to the 10-minute mark and I would just talk. And I would tell whatever the story was or the message I wanted to share. And I wouldn't think about how I would say it the way I would preach it to my kids or whoever else was willing to listen and just unedited post it.
That's really good.
Then, later on down the road, once you get in your groove and you realize what messages are just practice doing that. And then later on, you can add layers to that so it works on other platforms. But I think the platform to practice on is probably TikTok. I think YouTube long form is also fantastic, but there's something really raw, and I just think TikTok.
Would you say TikTok for the 2.0 person? And when I say 2.0, we're saying people later in their life.
Yeah.
I just always don't know what to call it.
Midlife, but it's
midlife.
Also sometimes people who are like they've already lived a career, and now they're transitioning.
Yeah. So you say go on TikTok. Is that because the younger generation's there?
No.
So why do you say TikTok as opposed to
it's
Instagram?
New. Because I think this right now, the moment that we're sharing this, TikTok, the algorithm wants, it feels authentic, like it knows what's authentic and what's produced.
That's good.
Anything that's produced, it just isn't showing up on anyone's feed. And so it makes it so much easier. Just show up. You don't need a special mic. You don't need special lighting. Just talk. And that's the place, that's your testing ground. That's your
really
test
good.
tube. That's your lab to figure out what messaging works. And the algorithm will serve up your content to people who are looking for it. I just think it's I'm not saying it's like the place to build a business, but it's a place to hone your brand.
Have you ever wondered to yourself or asked yourself the question when you watch my content, how the heck does Omar's quality of video look and sound so dang crispy? It's literally the number one question I get asked, whether it's privately in the DMs or people commenting on my videos on Instagram or even on YouTube. The reality is, I believe the quality of videos that I've been able to produce has been the recipe to my success online. And I want to give you access to my live document where I've listed out everything I use, both for the podcasts I create, to the YouTube videos I make, as well as to what I use for my smartphone to make it look and sound amazing. The reason I put it on a live doc is because I keep this document updated in real time with everything that I'm using. So just head over to thevideodept.co/crispy or just click the link down in the show notes. Let's get back to the conversation. That's really good. And just, I know you answered it, but like, I guess, can you answer it in another way? Like, why should somebody even care to do this at this point?
Yeah.
Or are you speaking to the person that feels like they want to do this? Because
both.
Yeah. Okay. So then, you know.
First of all, our economy, when we look at the volatility of the economic market, like today, having one stream of income is as risky as it gets, you know, and especially for people who are in their second half of their lives. Social Security, just the security of your job, a 401k, insurance, taking care, long-term care for your parents. You know, now for my generation, our kids are staying with us and more financially dependent upon their parents for a lot longer.
Yep.
Like almost, they say 6 to 10 years longer than my generation. So we all need more money. And it's not going to come in the form of payments from our employers, just not, you know? So take advantage of the fact that you have lived the experiences. You are the brand. You don't have to develop a brand. You are the brand. We just have to figure out how you share that with the world, right? And so it's for anyone who knows they have lived this life for a reason.
It's good.
There's got to be a reason why I've been through these things. There's got to be some purpose behind why I survived this thing. And I believe it is to help others. And so you're called to do it, number one. And number two, it just makes life so much easier when you can find a way to like share your life, your world, your brand, and profit from it.
Okay, profit. There is a assumption that I would say the older crowd has that, yes, if you make videos and they get Mr. Beast type views, it's in some way, shape, or form, you're going to make money.
Yeah.
But, you know, I guess the two questions is this. How long should they expect until they start seeing some money that you would give them? And then number two, what would be those first steps? I know you talked about brands are wanting, you know, this age group to come out and start making content.
Yeah. You know, when people always ask like how long, it just reminds me of I asked that same question when I first started looking at personal development. I was doing a training with Brian Tracy, and I remember hearing him say, it takes the average person 7 years to become a millionaire. I'm like, oh, God, I don't have 7 years. Like, how do I speed that up? You know, and that was the wrong attitude. What I needed to do was just start, because it's like an average. Like when someone says, how long do you have to live? Who cares? Because you're going to live and you're going to die. Like, you've got to put in that time anyways. So just start. Don't worry about how long it's going to take. If you're going in at wanting to know, like, when am I going to see results? It ain't going to happen because you already got the wrong mindset. And so when I heard that advice from Brian Tracy, I was just like, all right, I'm going to start now because I got to put in those 7 years. But it was like 2.5 years later that we made our first million, you know? And if I had been like, 7 years, that's too long, and I hadn't started, I wouldn't have hit that. And maybe I could have hit it earlier. You know, you just don't worry about statistics. Worry about your intention. Do things for the right reason. You're already really good at being you. So just turn on a camera and be you. Talk to the camera, but have a purpose. Have a message you want to share.
That's good. And I just think, I'm thinking about my parents. They're like, they moved here. They have a cool story. They moved when my mom moved from the Philippines, my dad from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
When they were 18, went to college, met each other. Like, there's so much cool stuff there, and that they could talk about all those things, and they're still together, and it's awesome. But then them monetizing it. So
Yeah.
what's that process? I'm even like, I would love to be coached by you right now, because right now the podcast is doing really well. And I know I can cook in some brand deals. I just don't want to go about it wrongly, or, I don't know. Like, what would you say as far as working with
Find
brands?
a mentor, because I mean, even myself, like it's really hard. If you're doing things for the right reason, negotiating for your rate is uncomfortable sometimes. I'm not good at it. I need someone to do it on my behalf. I need someone who sees my greatness. So it's tapping into people who this is specifically what they do. Start making content first and foremost, right? And I think a great way to do that, like I said, is to just do long form video, and then learn how to get better at that, and then hire. Invest in people so you don't have to figure this out yourself.
Yeah, you got money.
You got money, and you don't have a lot of time, right? We just don't. So save yourself the effort of trying to figure everything out yourself, and hire people who this is what they specialize in. When it comes to, when I'm talking to the 2.0 person, they hate the word influencer. It has a negative connotation. But they think about I'd like to get a brand deal though. That sounds kind of cool.
Right.
Same thing, you know? But brands won't find you. They're not they're looking for you, but there's so much out there.
Right.
You have to present yourself to them. So it's learning how to use Canva, a free tool, canva.com, and putting together a pitch deck so people understand what's your demographic? What are you speaking about? How many views are you getting? And to start off with, you're doing sometimes things in exchange for a free product or exchange for an opportunity. But you've got to start practicing reaching out to brands. And you don't need to know how to write these letters. You can use ChatGPT to do it. You can, use YouTube and find somebody who's already posted a video about how to reach out to brands. And it's just a process of learning how to reach out to them and how to present yourself as okay, listen, here's my age, here's my demographic, here's who I can speak to. There are so many companies that are looking for that midlifer, and there's just too much noise out there, and there's so much content from younger generations that it's hard to find those midlifers. So you've got to go to the brands, and you've got to know the right ones to go to. Go to the ones, like Lori, all the big major beauty brands, they are looking for older women because that's their demographic.
Yeah. I actually was talking on the phone with somebody that is very well versed in brand deals and stuff. And he brought to me a company that would probably do a 6-figure deal with me. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, I can sell so much of their stuff. He's like, no, not for you to sell stuff. By pure association is why they would want to do it. So sometimes it's not even an ROI for you doing a brand deal. It's purely an association or an ambassador type of thing.
Yeah.
Where, it doesn't always have to be this direct exchange too. It's just no, we want to just be a part of whatever it is you're doing.
There are certain brands that just they don't need to. They're like, we don't have to pay you anything because you get a lift by being associated with us. One of those companies is Revolve. So it's a women's clothing brand. I get a shipment at least once a day. Reach out to me, Revolve, which is a pointless thing to say because they don't pay their. They don't pay for brand deals the way most companies you would think they would, because they know you being associated with them elevates your brand. So it's would you take a Nike deal right now to say you were sponsored by Nike and they didn't pay you anything, but you got Nike shoes? You'd be like, okay,
for sure.
Right? Because it's there's certain brands it's it elevates you just to be associated with them. So there's also I think an important message to remember that not everything means you need to be paid for it.
Good.
Right? I still to this day, I'll take speaking engagements and I'll take on work because I'm I'm going to learn something from this. I'm going to be in front of the right audience. It's going to benefit me down the road. And meanwhile, I'll have people who maybe I've asked them to speak on my stage and their fee is dude, wait, who are you a former president? What? And I'm do you not know the opportunity? You just blew it. By setting your rate so high. And, so I'm one that I look at things for, okay, not just what is my rate?
Yeah.
What do I need to get paid? But how can this be a relationship?
Good.
It's about relationships. When somebody wants to sponsor like my podcast or whatever, if they want to just do like a single read, I'm like, even if it's a lot of money, I'm like, I want a relationship where I really trust you take care of your customers. I don't have to worry about your customer service if I'm sending people to you. And you trust me that I don't want to sell my people.
Right.
I want to explain how something has benefited me, and I want a relationship.
No, it's really good. I really do think like strong personal brands come down to relationship and conversation. You know,
Yes.
like there's like I've helped thousands of people in my DMs and the engagement on my Instagram account and even my like engagement for how many people follow me, it's through the roof.
Wow.
But I think it's just because I'm having conversations.
Right.
I'm developing relationships with people. I would like to ask you the question: what makes a strong brand strong, and what makes it weak?
Lack of focus. If you want to stand out, if you want to stand apart, you have to niche from the start. And that's the most difficult challenge for someone who's in the second half of their life, because they have so many interests, so much experience, and a wealth of knowledge. Picking one is going to be the most difficult challenge, but it's the most important one.
That's really good.
You have to pick one. I know you have a million different, like you can start talking about all the things you want, but like once you're like, okay, this is kind of resonating, then you have to zero in on one thing until people are saying, you have to follow this guy for this. Because it's not until once people know your name, then you can broaden your aim. Until people know your name, you've got to narrow down.
That's really good.
And it's hard.
Okay, let's see. I want to point out a scenario. So I had a friend who understands personal branding, and when he says a strong personal brand, he means like if you want to sell pizza tomorrow, you can. Like that's how much people vibe with your whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
And so he was like, a friend of ours, he was like, what do you think about this friend of ours and his brand? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't know, man. Like, you know, I've done a few interviews with him, and like it's almost like he has these like go-to answers.
Oh.
And he's like, I feel like sometimes it robs him from being able to just create a human connection. And by how he delivers, it's just like, and it's like, I went to my friend and I was like, yo, this person thinks this. What do you think about it?
Oh, you told the person.
Yeah.
You got that was okay.
I mean, I'm all about the light, spreading the light. And he's like, I don't know, that's just me. And it's like, it is true. That is you being you. But somebody perceives it as being very, I guess you could say like not authentic.
Authentic, yeah.
I think is the word. I don't know. Like, I would just,
here's my take on that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who are big brands that I don't see as being authentic, and I don't understand it. And then there are a lot of people who I think are incredibly authentic, and maybe they don't have the same kind of traction, right? I don't know what to make of that. I see through like phony, weird stuff, and it always like kind of surprises me that other people don't. And so I guess it's just different perspective, right? Like, but I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Because it always kind of blows my mind where I'm like, this is an act.
Yeah.
But it's working.
Right. So that was the thing, is like it's working.
Is it working for this guy?
On a business standpoint, 100%.
Wild.
But could this person sell merch? Probably not.
Oh.
But
Okay.
but they're doing really well. I mean, that's kind
there
of
you
it.
go.
Yeah.
I think people just unfortunately people want to like, they want predictability, right? So that predictability creates familiarity, which makes me feel more relaxed, and then I trust you, even if it feels like there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
You know? And I think there are certain people who we have an emotional intelligence where we want to know for sure who you are.
Yeah.
And we're always watching to look for that thing where it's like, oh, okay, I knew it. You know what I mean? So we're looking for that hint or that clue that you're not who you say you are.
That's really good.
Because we're always on high alert. We don't want to be scammed, and we're going to get scammed if somebody's not who we think they are.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I just think, because I think about like the first person that comes to mind right now when it comes to a very strong personal brand is Travis Scott.
Oh.
You know who he is?
Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
he's a rapper.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah.
But this dude, whatever collab he does, whether it's shirts or whether it's sneakers, a seltzer, he did a collab with Audemars Piguet, which is like a watch brand. Like it doesn't matter what he puts his name on, it just sells.
Yeah.
And there's that what's the word? Like I think like that image, I guess you could say, is possible for regular people.
Yeah.
I don't really sell my hats.
Yeah.
But because I wear it all the time and I am who I am on camera,
Yeah.
people want to buy the hats. And I probably should sell the hats. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I do the same thing. Like there's people who I really like. I like everything about them. And I find myself doing the creepiest things, like screenshotting a video and then zooming into the background to see what blender they have. Because I just like them and I trust them. I'm like, well, they're going to buy a good blender.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's influence. Like you don't have to sell me the blender. It's in the background. But I trust everything about you. So I know you're buying good things.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
it's really good. Yeah.
And that's where we're at today. And I think if people are afraid to sell, like don't sell. Like you don't have to today.
Right.
If you show up with integrity, and that's the thing that matters the most. Like when you compromise your integrity, you can't get that back. You know, you lose that in one split second decision, and then you've lost that person's trust. It's done. Like they move on to the next person.
Yeah, that's
You know?
really good. Where do you see social media going this year? Like as far as based on what you saw last year, and
I think the overly produced reels are like I teach Instagram. I should love Instagram, and most of the content I'm seeing on Instagram right now, I'm like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. It's like I'm hate watching. You know, I'm not seeing too much. Like, there's a few people killing it, but I think that
who are some people that are killing it?
I can't even name names right now. Like just, you know, I'll see a video, follow. I don't want to follow. We don't want to follow anybody new. So
Yeah.
you have to be so good now to get a follow, right?
true.
A new follow.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to see more of your content. But Instagram is constantly watching TikTok, right? So they're imitating TikTok. They're imitating YouTube. They're imitating whatever. Meta watches everything. But TikTok's not looking at Instagram. TikTok's looking at YouTube and Netflix, right? Because they know our brains are sick of this. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Like I can't connect in 15 seconds
Right.
with a bunch of emojis flying in and big captions and words and whoop, you know, and it just, that's become white noise. And TikTok, that's why you see their content getting longer and longer and longer and less produced.
Yep.
More storytelling, more like, you know, it used to be even just like 6 months ago on TikTok, you edited out like if you started your camera, you edited that out. You edited out the breath. You edit out
Right.
all these quick jump cuts. So it's like, oh, everyone's attention span is really short. But now we're sick of having a short attention span. We don't want to feel this way. We want to be able to slow down and connect and think about what you've just said. So now what's working is I can see you press the button and the pause is kept in there and the ums and the ahs and the little tangents. And now it's 10 minutes that before what was working on TikTok is taking that 10 minutes and editing it down to 30 seconds. Now we're watching the whole thing and we want somebody to keep us company. You know, we kind of want a relationship. And we weren't getting relationships from 15-second reels and TikToks. So I think long form, like what we're doing right now, people want to, we're hungry for it. We've missed it. And so we're longing for it. So I think this kind of real connection type content is going to be, it is what's popping off. It's why your show is crushing. It's why that type of content on TikTok is great. And it's why if you haven't entered into this game because you thought you need a team of editors and you thought you had to be super polished and know how to chop up videos yourself, no, you just need to know how to be yourself and hit play, hit record.
I think that's what it is. It feels like a breath of fresh air. Like there's just been this reset.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, you could still do this thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to look like what it's looked like so far.
Yeah.
And it's weird to think that we are still in the infancy stages of vertical video.
Right.
Because I don't know, I think about Ruby was born 2018 and then like COVID came and then like that's when like Reels started, I believe 2019, 2018. So I mean we're still like It's still new.
I've never been able to make sense of, like, I really thought that YouTube would go all vertical at one point. I mean, it's the only platform that's still.
Do you want me to tell you
Yeah,
my thoughts?
please.
So the reason why I don't believe YouTube's also the only one that doesn't allow you to upload longer than 60-second vertical videos, because Instagram's allowed you to do that,
Yeah.
and so does TikTok.
Right.
And so the reason I believe is they understand the intention of the viewer. You know, like I go on YouTube TV on my television.
Right.
I watch, you know, and there's a separate algorithm, even though it's the same account logged in, there's a separate TV algorithm that I have,
Yeah.
and there's a separate smartphone algorithm I have.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So YouTube is very smart too when it comes to algorithm. I think they're just trying to own it, because what's happening is less people are having cable and less people are watching even Netflix, and YouTube is, the consumption is really high. So I think they're trying to stay in that lane of, like, you know, horizontal video. I think even those shorts, I think there's 70 billion views in 2023, 70 billion views on YouTube shorts. So there's a high demand still.
Yeah.
But I think they're just like, we're going to be king horizontal for now.
It's interesting. When I go to YouTube and shorts show up, I'm like, get out of here, get out of here. Like, I try not to watch them, because I'm like, I can get that everywhere else. I come here to slow down, to connect.
Right. Which is why I love YouTube.
Yeah.
So I would say for the older person, you can also just do the same thing on YouTube.
Yeah.
Just literally, you know, how I stayed married for 43 years.
Literally.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
How long have you guys been married, you and Brett?
28. Coming up on 29.
Just
Yeah.
really quickly,
Yeah.
as we wrap this, how have you kept your marriage fresh?
A little
I know
bit of
he'd
it.
be writing you those love notes.
Oh my
I
God.
need the game, because my wife
Dude.
is a words person.
Oh.
And it takes, and I'm a words guy, but I just got to sit down and actually write these notes, dude.
You can't, I mean, the things he sends to me are
goat.
just amazing. Yeah. Okay. So first of all, a little bit of it is luck, in that two people who met each other are equally committed to being better for each other, even when things aren't good, you know? So I think sometimes one person wants to work a lot harder than the other, and that's a bummer. You know, I don't know what to tell you there, because you can't change somebody that way. But we're just both super duper committed to being better, and we both get excited about growth. So whenever we're in a hard season, we both also, from experience, have learned, when it's really bad, we also know it's going to be beautiful eventually.
That's good.
There's that. We really put each other first, and we really like each other, and we work at it. We're so intentional about our marriage. Like, it is our goal to be better for each other and to have a better marriage, and we focus more on that than on being better in business, than being better in fitness. Like, it's like we are everything to each other, and it's fun, you know? But you have to be really intentional about it. So he says he wakes up every single day and he thinks, how can I make her life better? How can I make her feel better? And I wake up every day and think, how can I make him feel more appreciated, more revered? How can I make him feel more attractive? And it's intentional.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I have to, like, he's very romantic and he's very thoughtful. And I'm a little more absent-minded. Like, I have to, like, put reminders in my phone. And I know that sounds weird, but, like, because I don't want to forget to tell him these things and to do these things.
That's really good. I think it's cool that you just said you guys put each other first, and it's fun.
Oh, it's so fun.
I think people think that if you go and serve your spouse long term, it actually is draining, not fun. You know, it doesn't serve you, you know, when in reality, from experience, 28 years, that serving your spouse is ultimately fun.
Yes, it is. And it's so rewarding to become one, you know? And I know that's maybe counterintuitive for some people, but we just have this, we say it all the time, I never expected I would love you so much today, and so much more than I did last year, and so much more than I did when we first got married. Like I never expected that. I never expected I'd find you more attractive. I never, all these things. Like I like you so much more. And a lot of that is because of what we've been through, but also who you've become. And it's also being very intentional in the season that you're in. Because every single season, like right now, you are in a season. You have a baby that's 4 days old. And so like learn how to be in this season. Because every season changes how you need to be as a spouse. And you're about to come up on a season where you're like triaging. You're going to feel like 2 ER doctors.
I feel it.
And you just have to know like how do we still prioritize us, even though it's going to look a little different. And we couldn't wait to get to this season, like where it's just the 2 of us. Oh my God, it's the greatest thing ever. Like we're having so much fun because we in those triage seasons, in those seasons where it's like you just are doing the most, we still did the things that brought us together. Really and always remember we're on the same team.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I just love that you are a wholesome individual. You're not just a genius at marketing, but you guys are incredible.
Don't make me cry.
And I appreciate you. Appreciate everything.
Thank
you for
so
blessing
much.
this podcast, for being the catalyst to why it's one of the top podcasts in the world.
I am just so excited. This is the first time I've been the first guest to come back to a show. Like, this is amazing.
No, it's cool.
Can I get some kind of a plaque or something?
I can get you a plaque.
Okay.
You can have those fake Jordans that are hanging. I'm just kidding. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Where
My
can
pleasure.
people find you, and where can they connect with you?
On YouTube, it's Chalene Johnson. The show's called The Chalene Show. And on all the social media platforms, I'm at Chalene Johnson.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.